Okay, so welcome once again, everybody, to the job case study review. We had the first session some weeks ago. I think it was probably the first week in this month, and we're supposed to have had the subsequent, maybe not the concluding session, but it's a subsequent one for the case study that we started. But for some reasons, we've not been able to have that. And thanks everyone um, for accepting our apologies for having to postpone the session for a couple of times now. So today we just want to see how we can, the possibility of getting to maybe complete it or maybe not. But again, we want to make a bit of a progress today and see if there are things that we can learn together. Like I said in that session, so the review session is not supposed to be like a webinar, neither is it supposed to be like a training. Essentially, what we try to build is to build capacity together such that we, of course, when we look at problems, the way we understand problems are different. The way we approach problems are different. And for that reason, depending on the individual, we might be able to come with some level of, with some different perspectives, if that is the right word. So essentially is with whatever I do or I try to do, you might have some ideas around it. So you can always share. And so we see if there is a tendency of sorry, I'm distracted. Let me close something. So we see if there's the tendency of we incorporating a lot of those perspectives into the solution that we're trying to build. I'm just going to share my screen now so we can proceed from where we stopped the last time. Share this entire screen. There's some days. I know that this time, of course, it can be convenient for everybody. That one is certain. But at the same time, so let me bring this screen here. And then there's a screen that's supposed to come there. Yeah. So but we that was the reason why we ran the poll so that we could have an idea of what time is most feasible for those that are interested. Because again, this is a more technical session, so it's not going to be of interest to a lot of people, especially if they are not those that have been building stuff already in Power BI. So it might not be something they can cope with or they can vibe with, as people would say. All right, so this was where we stopped in the last session, but just a very quick recap. So this is the case study that we are trying to look at. We have this case study here, and for the benefit of those that might just be joining for the first time. So what we are doing in this session is to look at a real job case study, such that we look at a case study together and we try to build a solution for that case study. And a way of saying that if peradventure or coincidentally you are faced with a similar case study like this, you should know the best way around it to approach it. So this case study, we have a couple of things that we've been asked to answer or to prefer solutions to. So this organization needs us as the analyst to answer a few questions around the net sales, around customers, and the products sold. So in the last session, we've been able to tackle things around the net sales. Although I feel that there is a bit of enhancement that we can do on the top 5 customers by net sales, just to make things a lot more fluffy and a lot more what's the word say a lot more dynamic, yeah. So and then so we'll look at that first, and then we look at the customer side of things. I believe that once we do that, that might naturally be the end of the case study, because everything that we have here on products, they seem to be pretty much direct, so we might not necessarily have to do that. So let's go back to this. So this is where we were. So we've looked at, so this is the table that we built for the top 5 customers top 5 customers by the total sales. And if you remember, the way we built this was that we have this particular table here, which is using two fields. We have the customer account, which is coming from our customers dimension table. And we also have the total sales, which is just a measure that calculates the total sales attributable to a particular customer at a point in time. And then we went further to now create a filter on here that filters down to the top 5 customers by the total sales. So what I would mean is that this becomes a static table, and the table would always show top 5 customers till eternity. But again, whenever you're building something like this, there are times that you want to give your users some power to implement something so that they can change things around. Imagine there is one of your customers or one of your report users who would like to see top 10 customers instead. They don't want to see top 5, they want to see top 10. Or for some of them, they want to see just top 2. That might be something you want them to be able to. So if that is the case, you may want to empower them so they are able to change things around on the report so that it suits exactly what they want to do. And again, that's the idea of self-service analytics. A way to say that the users are able to change things around on the report, and the report dynamically adapts to whatever changes they're making. So if you want to implement something like that, if you want to be allow the users to select the number of customers they want to see. So maybe they want to see top 4, they want to see top 3, they want to see top 5, whatever they want to see, want them to be able to do that. Then we'll need a combination of a few things. Number one is we'll need what is called a parameter. So parameter is a super valuable thing that we have in Power BI. But just think about it like a slicer that you want to introduce, but that would be based on some numbers. There are 2 kinds of parameters. We have numeric parameters, which has been in Power BI for quite a while, and the field parameters, which were just introduced maybe some 2 years thereabout. For this case, we'll be using we're going to be using the numeric parameters. So if I come here to the modeling tab, when you're on the modeling tab and you come down here to new parameters, you see that we have 2 kinds. That is the numeric range and that is the field parameter. If I select numeric range, we have this pop-up window. Essentially, what you can do with this is just that there are a couple of ways. We might not go the route of parameters, but going the route of parameters, well, it's not necessarily a bit straightforward, but again, it's one of the ways. So because at the end of the day, what we'll get as a result from creating these parameters is the same thing that we can get going another route. But let's stick to this for now. So what this is saying is that we want to be able to add parameters to visuals and DAX expressions, so people can use slicers to adjust input to see different outcomes. Okay, so this is more like boss you daily, what does that? So this is more like saying that this is super explicit. What you want to achieve is you want to eventually have a slicer that you then be able to now select some values that would interact directly with your visuals. So again, you can create it as a numeric range or a field. So for this case, we are creating this as a numeric range. So I can give the parameter a name to say top customers selection. All right, data type whole number, minimum, we want it to be at 1. So the list that anyone can select will be 1. The reason why for this case you don't want to pick a 0 is this. Think about it for a moment. If you allow your users to select a 0, what I will mean is that somebody accidentally picks a 0 and then there is nothing to filter down to, because you want it to be that when they select something, your visual responds directly to that, and your visual just shows the number of customers based on what they have selected. So if they select 0 customers, you expect that nothing should actually show. So that doesn't make sense. So we leave the minimum to be 1. We want to increment by 1 and maybe up to 20 or maybe up to 10. So if you're saying up to 10, what that means is that you only want them to be able to select up to 10 customers, so they can filter down to top 10 customers and not beyond. The default, you can do 5. You can also leave that blank. Add sliders to this page, yes, because we're going to need that slider. So I do create. So when I create this, you see that we have this slicer here. So this slicer, if I type in 5 and I hit enter, it just goes to 5, but it's not doing anything. But let's see what's actually created at the back end. If I go here to the table view, and then here you see that we have a top customer selection right here. So I select this. This is what happens. So this is the table that Power BI creates for you at the background. So you say that you want to have a list of numbers starting from 1 down to 10, incrementing by 1. And this was the DAX expression that was implemented. So which means that we could have created this table ourselves and not necessarily going the parameter route. But so you know the other way around it now. So let's go now. So how then can we now make this slicer interact with our visual? So when I select maybe 3 here, I want to see top 3 items. When I select 10, 9, I want to see top 9 items. So what we want to do is pretty simple. So if I come here, I'm going to create a new measure. So I'll create a new measure. I'm just going to call this Control Plus. So if you want to zoom into your formula bar, you can do Control Plus, and I would zoom into it. So want to call this top customers filter. Let's call it that. And then, so first we want to create a variable, and want to create a variable to know what value was selected in here in the slicer. So I want to call this top slicer selection. Okay, so that's the name of our variable, and I can just do a mean of the top selected. So that should be selected, not the value, is the selection itself. If you can see my screen, please, you may need to. Okay, let me ask everybody, can everyone see my screen? So I know it's just top where we can see the screen. Okay, super. All right, so top where, please, if you can hear me, you might have to exit. Hopefully that resolves it. All right, so we have top select. So what this will return is that it just will show us whatever was selected. So if whatever was selected was 9, that's what will be returned here. It doesn't matter if you're doing a min or a max. So it's just more like saying that, tell me what was selected here. So once we get what was selected there, the next thing is to now create a table like this, just like what we have on our visual, that now filters down to what was selected. So in DAX, we have a top N function. So if I do another variable to say that top table, and then I say, for this guy, I want to do a top N. So what does top N do? It says that it returns a given number of blah, 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 something to this. That's what we can see. But again, it's more like saying that. So top N is a table function, and it allows you to create a table that ranks items in that table based on a particular calculation in a particular order, and then returns the top, maybe top 5, top 7, depending on what you impute into it. So now this N value, that is where we're going to pass this into. So whatever was selected on the slicer, that's what we want to use as our top N. So I'm just going to say that our top N will be the top customer selection. Nope. Top customer selection. This should be, let me call this value like this, so that it's different. So I just do something like this. Yeah, so this is the variable created. And then, so the next argument is that we want to now see on what table. So just so that we're sure Let me zoom a bit out of this, and then so I can do this instead. So so you see now that the next thing is the table that we want to create this over. So I want to create this over the customers table, because I want to see the top customers. That's what I want to see. So then I'll come back to this in a minute because there will be an issue. Then how do we want to order this? We want to order this by the total sales. And then in what order? We want to order this descending order. So that's highest to the lowest. So I'm just going to close this bracket. So what this would do is that this is going to create a table for us that would now show a number of customers based on whatever we specify. So let me hit enter on this so that this returns an error. I just want to ensure that you understand what the stop end is doing. So if I come here to the DAX query view, so this DAX query view, when you want to enhance your DAX prowess to a large extent, one of the things you want to get accustomed to using is a DAX query view. Because here you can write DAX calculations, but again, just bear in mind that whatever DAX you can write here, they are DAX that are supposed to return a table. So you can write a measure here. So I can do evaluate, and then I say top n, I say top 2, and then table, I want to return that on the customers, and then I want to use the total sales, and then I want to do descending order. So if I say that I want to return the top 2 customers based on the total sales, and I run this, so what you see is that we have just 2 customers here, and these 2 customers, you will notice that eventually if you compare that to what we have on the report view, they are our top customers. So if I make this 5 like so, if I change this 2 to 5 and I run this, you see that we have 5 customers here. So this is what this is supposed to return, and this is returning a table. Okay, so now that we understand what top n is doing, so if I go back to this and I go back to the measure we're trying to create, so we have created our table already. So what I would do now is to now return. So whenever you create variables in DAX, you need to return the result. So what I want to return, so I want to create a filter now to say that in this table that will be created, remember that this is a 1-column table that will be returned. Now just have the list of customers that are the top customers. So what I want to return is that whatever is on our visual, so these customers that we have on our visual, so I can say that whatever is the selected value of the customers that you already see on the visual, I want to check if that is in the top table. So what will happen here is this. So when we run this, we'll check for each customer's line by line that we have on our report. We are going to check if this customer is in the list of customers that will be returned here. Remember that this one will return the top customers. So we want to check if these customers, if they are here, if they are there, I just want to say 1, otherwise 0. So that's like the logic. So if I hit enter on this, so now we have a calculation here. Let me just expand this for the moment. Just bring this guy here. I do this, and then I'm just going to clear this filter here so we see everything. And so let's introduce that measure. So now this measure that we just created, you see that it's returning 1 for everybody. And that is what I said earlier, that we are going to run into an error. We're going to run into an issue. So let's go back to the measure. This is what is happening. So we said that we want to know the top end customers based on the total sales. And this is why one of the most important concepts that we need to understand in DAX is the context. So what happens here is that I will not be able to go into too much of the details about context. For every single row that you see on this table, it's only a customer that exists on that row. Okay. So every single row that you see here, it's a customer that exists on the table, on this row. And so what we are trying to do here is it's more like saying that we are comparing the customer to himself. That look at yourself, are you in the top 1? or are you in the top five? Yes, I would always be in the top five because I'm comparing myself against myself. So that is the idea. So that is why for every one of them, that is a one. So what we should have done is that in this particular case, before we say that we want to rank the customers as top one, top two, top three, top four, or whatever, we want to remove the um, we want to remove the filters that will be around that already exists around our customers. So if I remove the filters, one of the functions you can use is to use the all. You can use all, you can use remove filters, depending on your case anyways. So if I do this now and I hit enter, and so I close out of this, you see that immediately some of these guys turn to zero. There'll be a few of them that's supposed to be ones here. So you see now that we have some ones at the top and then we have some zeros downwards. And if I go onto this filter, maybe I change this to one now, you see that it's only the first one, that is one, every other one, they are now zeros. So what we can do now is rather than use the measure on the visual directly, I'm going to take this out. I'm just going to drop this on the filter and I'll say that apply a filter to this measure when we want to filter this measure to when it is one, and I click on apply. So once I do that, so which means that by this we would only be able to see what the number of customers that exists based on the filters that we have applied. So if I come here, I pull this guy, sorry, I pull this guy slightly downwards. I pick the slicer. Maybe I just do something like this. And then I change this to 3. I hit enter. You see now we see the top 3 customers. If I change it to 6, hit enter, we see top 6 customers. So this way, we've been able to make this a bit more dynamic such that our users now have control over the number of things they want to see on the visual, and they can, if they decide in the future that, oh, we want to see top 7, yes, you can just impute the number of what you want to see and then you're good. So another step ahead of this, there's a step ahead of this, but maybe let's leave that for now so we can proceed. So now, if we go back to the case study, so this is more like the completion of the net sales part. The only other thing here is just we may want to quickly just format this by removing the background and stuff. But I'm sure you can do all of those things. So I want to go back to the case study. Why is this blank? Why is this not coming up? So let me try to open this. Okay, all right, so this is what we have. So now we have tackled the net sales bit. So for the customers bit, they also want to know the total customers, the variance by month, and the number of lost and gained accounts over the years. So now let's begin. Let's get the total customer count. If we want to get the total customer count, how should we approach that? Anyone has an idea? What do you think? Want to get the total customer count? What should we do? Anyone? No one wants to. No one wants to try. I know you know the answers.
What was the question?
The question is, we want to get the total customer count. How do we get that?
Just to use the serial number.
Hmm. Okay, that's an idea. Thanks for that. All right. So now, because we want to visualize this. So the total number of customers count, just like we have here to know the total sales, we want to also have a sort of a card like this that shows the total customer count. How do we do that? Essentially, what we need to do is to create a measure that looks at the count. So if I come here, if I do new measure here, and then I say customers. So we want to know total customer count will be, it's not a normal count. What do I mean? So when we do a normal count, it counts every instance of a customer, whether it already existed or not. And we know that in any business that we are running, there is every tendency, which is the norm, for a customer to patronize us a couple of times. If we ever run a business that it's only once a customer can patronize you, then maybe there's an issue. So if we do a normal count, then that would give us all instances of the customers with all of the duplicated values or the repetitions that or all of the occurrences of the customers in our database. So what we do is to do a distinct count. So if you do a distinct count of our customers on, you can do it on the customer table, or we do it on the facts table. Distinct count will always be the same, depending if you have done your modeling correctly. So if I do this and then I duplicate this card, I bring this guy here and I take this out and I pull this here. So this tells us that we have 602 customers. So for the time that we've been in this business, we've had 602 customers who had transactions with us. That's what this means. And then so for this trend line that we have here, we may want to repeat the same thing just to show the time that each customer came into our business, more like customer acquisition thing. Then we have another question here that says that variance by month, which is want to know the differences in the number of customers that we get that transact with us month on month. So it's more like the same thing that we did for our sales month on month, so which is this. So, but before we can do any sort of variance, what we need to do first is to do a previous period calculation. So because we want to compare the current period against the previous period. So I will do something like this, new measure. So I'm going to create customers previous period, and then I say calculate customers. I can do same period last year, something like that. And then I use this like that. So this gives us the customer for the previous period, and then you can now create a measure for the customer variance. You can actually write all of this in the same measure, but again, customer months on month. So that would be divide. So customers, that's the current period minus customers previous period. We are dividing this by customers previous period. So that would tell us the growth in the number of customers or the dip. And then we're just going to turn this into a percentage. So this shows this way. All right, so now just going to duplicate this same chart here, like so. And then I take out sales month to month, I add customers month to month. So let me see, yeah, I know why this is happening. So now you see that we have zeros all through, zeros all through. Can someone guess why this is happening? I know why, but can someone guess why? Make an attempt. Yes, kindly.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So I think maybe because the relationship has not been created, like the modeling part.
All right, thank you so much for that. So relationship has not been created. That's the major issue. But again, so this is our model. So if you come here to our data model, this is what you see here. So we have a sales table, we have a customers table. we have a customers table. But before I come into this, let me show us a reason why this is happening. So let me just create a table. I'll add a table here, and then so on this table, I'll just add the month, and I had the customers and customers previous month. So this is the problem. So if you look at this now, and this is a way to troubleshoot whatever you're doing, most especially in DAX. If your measure is returning something weird, it doesn't make sense to you. One thing you might want to do first is to return that thing on the table so you see the actual values that are returned before you start to see how to rectify whatever it is. So now you notice that the same customer values are returned for every single month. So what this tells you is that there is no filter propagation from the month down to the customers, which is why. Why is that the case? Remember, we are calculating the number of customers from the D customers table. So if you go here to our model view, this is the D customers table. This is the date table. So dates can filter sales table. The customer can also filter the sales table, but there is no way for our dates to filter the customers table. So which is the reason why we are having the same numbers around. So one thing you may want to do is that for whatever you are counting, you may want to always count on your fact table. So when you do that on the fact table, whatever external filters are coming down, they would already see what's inside your fact table, so that should work. So let's go to fix this very quickly. So if I come here to customers and I say that instead of doing a distinct count on the dimension table, I want to do this on the fact table. So use the customer account on the fact table and I hit enter. So when that happens, you see now that we have the customers. This works for all of our customers, but again, we still do not have anything returned for the customer previous period. So let's see why that is the case. So just a second. Previous period. So this is not working for this. Okay, so let's see. Same period last year, the dates. You see what? Okay, so we are using name here. Are we using the right column? Let me see. Let's be sure. Dates table. Okay, this is dates here. We are connecting this to name. How is that? Okay, name from sales table. Okay. Name from this. Okay, so let's do something. So we want to return the customers for the previous period. So let me just comment this out. Comment this out, and then 1 second. Okay, so let's write it this way. So I do calculate the customers for customers, and then let's do a date add, and then the date table -1, and then we're going a month backward. So this gives us for the previous month itself. Okay, so this works for the previous month. Okay, so let's do this now. If I take out this filter, so now let me change this to we do month year. Is this not coming up? Month year. Stay here. All right. So now, okay, so this is correct. So we have 175 here for March, and 175 is returned here. So this correct. So I have to check what's happening on the table. That didn't make that work. But again, this is what we have. So this tells us that in May 2020, we had lesser customers who transacted with us. So one thing you might want to do again to enhance this is on this same visual, we can now add the actual customer as a tooltip, and we also add the customer's previous month as a tooltip. So what I mean is, if I hover on this now, what I would see is that now I already know by me seeing 9.68% as the percentage drop in the number of customers who transacted with us. What if the person wants to now see how many customers did we lose coming from April 20 to May 20? So if I hover my mouse on it now, so now we see that in the previous month, we had 186 customers who transacted with us, but in the current month, we have 168 customers, and that's what accounted for the 9.68%. So this is an enhancement that you may want to bring it to this. All right, so now then the last bit of this, so which would be the end of the case study, in my opinion, is that we want to look at this. We want to look at the number of customers lost and the number of customers gained over the years. So it's similar to what we have here, but let's put some visual to this. So this is what we want to do. So let me go to this table, the sales table, and let me copy this table out. If I do copy table, and then I go to Excel. So there are different approaches to this, but I just want to show something in Excel so that you sort of understand what we are trying to achieve. So I'm just going to paste this here. So for whatever data that you have in Power BI, so long as the data can sit in Excel, you can copy the entire thing and bring it to Excel. So that works. Would you get the recording? Yes. So just, I think you want to just subscribe to the channel, so the recordings are always uploaded there. Okay, so now we have this. Yeah, so we want to know the number of customers that we lost or gained every single month. So how do we lose customers? It's more like saying that from January to February. So in January, let's say we had 50 customers who transacted with us. In February, we had 40 customers who transacted with us. So what we want to know by customers gained or lost is to say that how many customers, if it's gained, so that would be like saying that how many customers transacted with us in February that did not transact with us in January. So that will be customer gain. So it means that we had new customers. They never transacted with us in the previous month, but they transacted with us in the current month. So that's one side to it. Customer loss will be that the customers that transacted with us in the previous month, but did not transact with us in the current month. So that's customer loss. So if you were to do something like this in Excel, it's pretty straightforward. Again, if you know your ways around it. So I can do something like this. First, let me turn this into an Excel table. I hate to see this formatting, so I always clear it out. So now I can now insert a column here for something like, I can say month here. I just want to make it easier for myself. So I can do something like text. So I want to extract the month and the year from this. So this is what I will need. So now let's just pick two periods. Maybe let's pick March 2020 and February 2020. So because I know that we have those dates here. So there is February, there is March 2020, and there is April. I think there will be April too. Let me see. Yeah, there is April 2022. So let's see. So now, first thing, let's try to bring out the customers. So let's say customers who transacted with us in March 2020. So what we can do is to do a filter on this column, can do a filter on the customers column for where the month year is equal to March 20. So I close the bracket, I hit enter, then I can run a unique around this. I run a unique around this so that it removes all of the duplicates that might be there. So these are the unique customers who transacted with us in March 2020. So now what we might do again is this. I can now come here. So let's just do a count to know how many customers are there. So I can do a count A of all of these customers. And now we see that we have 175 customers that transacted with us in March 2020. So I can repeat the same thing for April 2020. So now I do the same calculation, copy this, I come here, equal to, I paste this, then I say for this guy is April 2020. These are the customers, and then if I do a count A of that, so we had 186 customers. So, but what we want is not a direct difference. Remember, we want to know what the customers that transacted with us in March that did not transact with us in April. So it's not necessarily about the number difference. It's just we're trying to figure out who are they exactly. And then we want to do the converse. Who were the customers that transacted with us in April, but did not transact with us in March. So let's start with this. So if you want to know the customers that transacted with us in April 2020, but did not transact with us in March, we can use the match function in Excel. So I can do a match. So you use the match or X match whenever you want to do some sort of comparison to see what is in something and not in the other thing. So I do a match. I want to look for this customer that we have here, everything. I want to look for those customers. I want to look for them here. And then I'm doing an exact match. So what it tells you is that because we are looking for what is here in here, whenever you see this hash NA, that tells us that this particular customer is not in April. So which means this customer did not transact with us in April. This customer did not transact with us in April. This one did not transact with us in April, and like that. And those customers that did not transact with us in April, that would account for the customers or the account lost. So because they transacted with us in March, but we lost them in April. So for us to now get the actual list out, so what we can do is something like this. Accounts lost will be something like one filter. Want to filter this, want to filter this list to only include what is NAs here. So because this NAs, they are the accounts. So let's think about it. So accounts lost is those that transacted with us in March, but not in April. So we should be filtering this March list to get out these guys. So I do this, and then so we just do something like is NA. Want to check if this guy is NA. So if this guy is NA, that will give us that list. So you see that this JRPOIT is the one that topped the list here. This MIT, that's the second guy here. So these are the accounts that we lost. If we just want to do a count of those accounts, we can do something like this. So we lost 50 accounts. So the opposite is what we do for the accounts gained. So but again, we get the idea. So this is what we're going to translate now to DAX in Power BI. So let's see how we can write something like that in the 10 minutes that we have left. So what I will do here is to do something like this. So let's start with the gained account. So I'm just going to write a new measure here. So write, can call it gained accounts. So for gained accounts, we want to create a couple of variables. So number one is we want to know the current month that is selected. So which is more like saying, what month am I on my visual? So you know that at some point you'll be on April, you'll be on May. What month am I on the visual? That's what we're saying. So want to know the current month selected. So I can use the minimum to get that. So once we know the current month selected, we want to now be able to shift this current month to the previous month. So more like saying that, yes, I know the current month, but I want to know what the previous month would be. So because the calculation will roll over the current and the previous. So I do variable previous month, and then for this, you can just use the edit function to shift on the current month that we already created. And we ask it to go to a month before now. So now, once we know these two are the most important things, then we now want to create these exact tables. So these tables that would make a list of what happens in the current month and the customers that transacted in the previous month. So these tables are what we want to create now. So in DAX, whenever you want to alter the context around something. So if you want to call on the actual customers table, we could do something like maybe so we can do variable current month account, and I say that this is equal to maybe the values of the customers. I can do something like this, but this will not give us what we need. Why would this not give us what we need? Because we need to be able to put these dates into context. These dates must come into play because they will be the one that will determine which account actually transacted with us in a particular period. So what we might do is, and we already know again that we can use the D customers table because our date will not be able to filter this. So we'll use the customers account that is on our sales table. So what I would do instead is that I will do calculate table. So you just calculate normally if you want to alter filters or you want to alter the context around the measure, but if you want to alter the context around the table, you use the calculate table function. So I use calculate table, and then I want to change the context around the customer accounts on the customers table, and I want to do when the dates on the, which is what I called name, unfortunately. So where the date is equal to the current month. So this will list out all of the customers that transacted with us in the current month. So the same thing is what we'll now do for the previous month. So I do variable previous month account. I know for some people this may be a bit advanced. It's something that, yeah, you may just want to hold on to it for now, and maybe sometime in the future you would have to you need to get back to this. So I do something like customers variable customers account, then I do a date add because I want to shift the date to date add date -1 month, like so. This gives the previous period. Then what I want to return is now exactly what I did here, which is now to say that which are the customers that are here but not here. So that will be the account gained. So which is customers that transacted with us in the current month but did not transact with us in the previous month. So there is a DAX calculation, a DAX function that can do that, that people don't use it most times. So which is the except function. So what does the except function do? So let me try to zoom out of this. So it says returns the rows of left side table which do not appear in right side table. So if you're coming from SQL background, you probably would know some anti joint. I think it's available in Power Query too. So where you can do a right anti or a left anti. So it's more like saying I want to pick what is in the right table and not in the left, or what is in the left and not in the right. So something like that. So if I say except, I want to return what is in the current month table. Remember the definition. So it's saying that you want to return rows of left table that do not appear in the right table. So we're going to be starting because we want to check the account again. So we're going to be starting with the current month account, and then we want to check the accounts that are there that are not in the previous one. So that's what amounts to the accounts that are gained. But remember that this will return a list of accounts. So it's more like a table will be returned, multiple values will be returned. But what we need is just to know the number. So I can just do a count rows of this whole table. So that's all. If I hit enter on this, this will give us accounts gained. And then lost account is just like the same thing, but the only thing we'll be flipping is now previous account before the current account. So I can just come here to duplicate this measure. So I do this new measure, something like this, and then I say lost account, and then I say previous month account, what is in previous month account that's not in current month account. So once we have this, then we have the two measures that we need. So let's bring in a stacked column chart. So we can use the stacked column chart like so. 1 second, so we're rounding up already. So we have 3 minutes. So we have this, then I can go to the date table. Let's try to use the month here. Then I select where's my gain account, and then I select the lost account. So we have this. So what this is telling us is that we lost 50 accounts from April to March, which is what we got here. So 50, so we are correct. So now, but we need to make this a lot more, it's not necessarily visually appealing, but it's just more like saying that you want to present this in a way that it just makes some sense. So that when we say that accounts are lost, intuitively, it makes sense to depict that as a negative. So rather than it's also going up like the gained account. So gained account, yes, it makes sense, it's positive. So it can be up. Then we want to try to invert the lost account. So what we can do is just a simple trick here is to come here to whatever value we have here. We want to multiply this by -1. So when we do that simple thing there, you see that immediately we have a different visualization here, and all of the lost accounts, they are now negative, pointing downwards. So the other thing that we might just want to do here is we can just come here to the columns formatting for the lost account. Instead of making it a blue, we can select a red. This is not a red, sorry. You pardon me, whatever I select as red is red. So we can just do that. And for gained accounts, maybe we can just pick a green for that instead. So that shows us a green like this. So this tells us the pattern in our customers, how many customers are transacting with us month on month, how many customers are we gaining month on month, how many customers are we losing month on month. So this is the last part of that case, I believe, which sort of needed a bit of explanation so we get the actual idea around it. So this concluding part, I believe, is pretty straightforward. It's just some sums that we do there. So I don't think there's anything really too technical around that. So this is where we got to. And every other thing around this are just some cleanup, just making sure that the dashboard is clean, taking up the background, the font, and everything here is just to make things a lot cleaner. We've hit our time. It's 10 p.m. already. Any contribution from anybody? Like I said, this is not supposed to be a training, neither is it supposed to be a webinar. It's meant to be a rub minds together kind of a session. So any contribution from anybody? Any comments? Maybe a question? I know the answer. All right, so we're gonna close this in like 2 minutes, hopefully. Anything from anyone before we draw the curtain? I know it's late. People are preparing for work tomorrow. Anybody? All right, none. Okay, my boss Abdullah. Thanks for joining. All right, thanks everybody. Hopefully after this we would start with another case study. That would be probably the next session, depending on the feedback from this one. And also is that we would like it for anyone who has had to, at any point in time, you've had to take on any job-related case study, you may want to share that with us. So we have that in the archives, and maybe someday we'll get to those case studies as well to benefit the community members. Thanks everyone for joining the session, and let's do have a productive week. Bye for now, everyone.